Welcome back, Chumba. There were several intriguing developments in this week's Cyberpunk 2077 news, which I will be covering in today's video, including CD Projekt Red confirming their presence at E3 2019, and updates from the CDPR community team. I shall also be dropping a red pill on Cyberpunk 2077 release date misinformation, as well as some new info on Cyberpunk Red from Mike Pondsmith and R. Talsorian Games. CD Projekt Red were back in action this week by confirming via the official Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter account that they shall be attending E3 on June 11th to 13th in Los Angeles, USA. While this certainly increases anticipation and hype for new details, it's important to note that aside from this official attendance confirmation, there is no publicly available information on what CDPR might be revealing at E3. Unfortunately, I've already seen several commentators erroneously speculating about E3 release dates once again. In response to a fan asking whether or not alcohol will be present at the event, CDPR responded, "It's more of a question of how much alcohol will be available." This is a throwback to the Atlantis bar setup CD Projekt Red had at E3 2018 and Gamescom, where various cyberpunk-themed alcoholic beverages were served. The Atlantis bar is a Cyberpunk 2020 reference, and is the location for the Never Fade Away scenario, where Johnny Silverhand hires Rogue and Nomad Santiago to rescue Alt Cunningham from Arasaka. It should be noted that Sony have confirmed they will not be attending E3 2019 for the first time in 25 years. Given that Microsoft premiered the Cyberpunk 2077 reveal trailer during their press conference at E3 2018, it seems plausible that history might repeat itself in 2019. This may or may not coincide with a possible announcement of a next-generation console from Xbox, if you want to believe those rumours. CD Projekt Red celebrated Tłusty Czwartek, aka Fat Thursday, on the 28th of February this week. It is a Christian feast marking the last Thursday before Lent, but normally people just tend to have fun and eat lots of pączki, or donuts in English, as well as faworki, aka angel wings. And many CDPR employees posted photos of pączki with Cyberpunk 2020 sourcebooks, or the Cyberpunk 2077 figurine. Community manager Paweł Boże now holds the CDPR record for eating 20 pączki.
Now then, it's time for me to make the donuts.
The community team at CD Projekt Red answered several questions on Cyberpunk 2077, which may be of interest. CDPR confirmed that the choices V makes throughout the game will matter, and even small choices will be reflected in the game's ending. Therefore, there will be numerous endings. V will be able to earn or inhabit several locations. Once again, there is no official release dates. CDPR stated it will be safe to assume there will be trophies or achievements, but no details are currently available. When asked whether or not the EU version of the game will have Portuguese subtitles, it is still to be confirmed. CD Projekt Red were asked whether or not they will do promotional events. Aside from E3, they are currently providing no additional details. On the topic of mod support, CDPR currently do not wish to confirm anything, but it is something they are keeping in mind. CDPR accidentally tweeted out a GIF of Sam and Max. This was just a mistake, as they meant to tweet it out on their German GOG account. Unsurprisingly, some commentators thought this was a clue to the release date. When asked whether or not characters from the original 2013 teaser trailer will be present in the game, the community team replied that most likely those specific characters won't be in the game. However, you should be able to spot MaxTac here and there. In case you're wondering, MaxTac, or Maximum Force Tactical Division, deals with cyber psychos. This is interesting because one of the characters in question is the Mantis Blade Lady, who is also the figurine that CDPR have been gifting to their employees and media. Previously, Patrick Mills, Cyberpunk 2077 quest designer, implied she was a cool character, although information from that time period is subject to change. In Cyberpunk Red news, Jay Gray reported on a beta session of Cyberpunk Red held by Mike Pondsmith. Just for the record, all the details are still subject to change. In terms of the landscape, governments have not fallen and economics are still functional. It was described more like Europe after World War II rather than anything similar to Mad Max. Because new goods aren't reaching markets due to shipping issues, many cities live in a scarcity economy, so people can still have cell phones, for example, but it's a question of using what they can get their hands on instead of choosing what they want. With regards to the net, Rache Botmos effectively destroyed it. Netwatch tried to repair the damage, but eventually gave up. In its place, a new net is slowly being built. Individual organizations, meanwhile, have learned a lesson from the Fourth Corporate War. Being on the net makes you vulnerable. As a result, there's paranoia about connecting local servers and LANs to these slowly growing city nets. In other words, if a netrunner wants to do some business, they have to be there in person to stud the wires straight into a local port. Assuming this continues into Cyberpunk 2077, this may have interesting implications for the netrunner playstyle in contrast to its Cyberpunk 2020 counterpart. It was confirmed that the nuke from the Fourth Corporate War did destroy Arasaka Towers, but the damage didn't extend too far beyond the immediate area. While it created a radioactive combat zone, the area effect was small. The rest of the city isn't irradiated, and new corporate zones have already sprung up. One of the districts being built was called Watson, which is where V's home was in the gameplay demo of Cyberpunk 2077. Mike Pondsmith also confirmed that the timelines are not split. He deliberately left things very vague at the end of the Fourth Corporate War, just in case he wanted to use it later. For more information on Cyberpunk Red, please check out the Artal Saurian Games website. Once again, there was a cornucopia of fake news, malicious clickbait and other misinformation from desperate street rats this week, mostly surrounding a fictitious Cyberpunk 2077 release date. Hey, Cyberoach, what do you think of this confirmation date? My thoughts exactly. The origins of the latest street rat orgy stem from the Territory Studio website. Territory Studio is a creative agency that works on various design and digital projects for clients. They have worked with CDPR on brand and marketing, providing a variety of great cyberpunk logos and graphics. If you carefully examine the Territory Studio webpage in question, nowhere does it confirm a release date. It reads, "Unveiled at E3 2018, we look forward to a 2019 release." Now, I don't know if the English language takes on an entirely new meaning within the street rat lexicon, but where is this confirmation of the release date? The description by Territory Studio was an enthusiastic message to promote their work on Cyberpunk 2077, nothing more. The word leak is severely misused and abused on the YouTube platform. Do people sincerely believe that a reputable company such as Territory Studio would deliberately jeopardize their legally binding contract and relationship with CD Projekt Red? Would they ruin their reputation within the gaming industry by disseminating confidential information publicly on their website? No, they would not. Such actions would open the possibility of being sued by CDPR for breaching NDA, and more than likely they would get blacklisted. The sentence was most likely removed to prevent further disingenuous speculation and egregious conjecture by street rats. Once again, this is a fine example of the street rat modus operandi. Historically, whether it was a misformed tweet from Turkish publisher Bilcom, jaw-dropping imaginary news about new details appearing on January 10th, or other nonsense, street rats produce fake news which is then swiftly debunked by CDPR. When an employee from CD Projekt Red, acting in an official capacity, publicly states there currently is no release date, it's disappointing to see so many gullible individuals not listening to CDPR. For reasons unknown, they would rather take the blue pill and believe some YouTube street rat who only garners attention via clickbait or plagiarizing other people's content. Personally, I say take the red pill and have faith in CD Projekt Red. In this week's subscriber Q&A, a few members asked me about a passage in the most recent podcast from R. Talsorian Games, where Mike and Cody Pondsmith discuss Cyberpunk 2020, Cyberpunk Red, and the Witcher pen and paper games.
Foe unvanquished, I won't perish in the field. I'll be born again to take up the halberd 7 more times.
Some subscribers thought it was an Easter egg from Cyberpunk Red, but it is Mike reading out quotes that fans sent him. This particular quote refers to a Japanese tanka written by General Kurobashi Tadamachi and telegraphed to Imperial HQ on March 17, 1945, before the final charge he led against American forces at Iwo Jima.